Hello and welcome to FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby and George Andreadis from TreoTrade. How are you?
Very well, thanks, Toby. Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks for coming on the show. So look, we're talking about the financial technologist and the 100 most influential companies in FinTech. Congratulations for you guys for getting on board.
Thank you very much. It's a massive honour to be there.
Well, there's a group of companies who came together and pulled all the wisdom of the companies such as the Realisation Group, Lloyds Banking Group, London Stock Exchange, etc., etc., and to finalise it down to 100 names is really, really interesting. And within that, there's so many different companies like yourselves who are doing some great, great stuff at the moment. It's been a really interesting phase for you, right? Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing, your background, and how the company's doing at the moment.
Sure thing. So my background is in the LSE. I spent some time there in product management, building off-book trading systems. I then went to Credit Suisse to Advanced Execution Services. So I was I was looking at strategy for the group, where things were going with MiFID. Yeah. And I think we were talking earlier on, 8 years later, MiFID 2's only just gone in. So really quite astounding. My co-founders, Kim, Nick and Chow, they've spent a long time at companies on the hedge fund side. So Kim was CTO for about 6 years at GLG, and the guys were building out front, middle and back office systems there, basically from scratch, which obviously nowadays is not so common, but back then was extraordinary. Yeah, exactly. So the guys are really much more from the buy side, but although also had experience in banks and also high frequency trading. So Kim was in doing that in Chicago ages ago.
They've got stellar backgrounds, right, as well.
Yeah, exactly. So the guys have got great reputations, real problem solvers, looking at workflows across the board, not just in individual kind of siloed parts of the business. So from that point of view, there's a huge amount of experience that they have. They decided around about 2-3 years ago that instead of building another platform all over again for one firm, why don't they start using the new technology that's out there to build a platform which is ready and future-proof for firms all over London and everywhere else. Yeah. So I got involved around about 2.5 years ago. The guy said, "Look, George, what are you up to? Come on board. Let's give this a whirl." And we're almost 2 years down the line. Here I am.
It's amazing how quickly those things go. And tell us a little about the journey of the company, because it's starting to get some real traction, right?
Yeah. So I mean, what we do is we've basically built a platform around the asset manager workflows. So from portfolio management, execution, performance management, also risk and trading. We've built a modular system which is highly flexible. We'll probably get into what kind of technology we've started using to do that. Yeah. The reason we've kind of gone down a slightly different road is because of and lots of people are saying at the moment, there's a lot of legacy technology out there. So we had our first client going live around about 8 months ago. We've been keeping our heads down and working solidly on making sure that the platform and the applications that we've delivered work to spec, and we've actually tweaked a little bit here and there for the client that's adopted that so far. So we're kind of in a good place, I think, because we're live, clients trading, it's all front to back. Yeah. And now it's how do we structure our strategy moving forward in terms of client acquisition, resourcing. And what kind of clients do we really want to focus on in the next 6 months? Yeah,
I think that's really encouraging, because you see a lot of businesses in this sort of space get that wrong, don't you? About the patience and the time and the expectation and the business planning to get that right. To have a product that works, to have a product you don't try and race too quickly ahead, that you've understood the procurement process of some of the clients and the incumbents that you're working with, and to actually do it in the way you're doing, I think is really refreshing and sort of gives you the platform then to say, look, here is a bulletproof point in case of how this can work. And with so many legacy systems, as you say, doing that, the nursing people through that process of being able to actually escape the clutches is really interesting, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, one of the worst things you probably want to do as a startup is, jump up, depending on how you're financed and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Jump up, stick your arms in the air, and say, "We're here. We can, everyone take a look at us.
Yeah.
Take our stuff. It's great." And then you kind of fall flat on your face because you can't deliver because you haven't got the resources, or you've got your target clients wrong, whatever it happens to be. I think one of the important things is you need to re-look at your strategy and iterate, continuously through your journey, and take as much advice as possible from as many people. So don't be too proud to do that, whatever your background is.
Yeah.
One of the main things I think that underpins what we're doing is the holistic view that it's not all about how sexy an application looks. It's all about data, where you have it, how you can interact with it, and how that solves the problems of the workflow, either an asset manager or a broker or a bank, whatever it happens to be. That maybe sometimes gets missed.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more with that. When you look at that list of the 100 most influential companies, 2018, the common theme around it is companies there who are solving actual problems. And how many companies are there out there who are pushing problems that aren't really problems on people and solving the wrong sort of stuff sometimes? And I think that's in that one phrase alone, I think you can probably see why companies are set up for success or failure within it. And data is an amazing thing. It's definitely a buzzword out there in the marketplaces. But what people can do with it to turn data into insight, into actionable processes is so critical, right?
That's exactly it, and I'm just skip on to legacy infrastructure at the moment. So I'm not sure we've had much new tech in finance since Big Bang. Certainly the underlying technology and the architecture and infrastructure. So we've maybe had patches upon patches. Certainly with MiFID and the targets to MiFID, there's been a lot of concentration in terms of getting that right, and that is a patch upon patch, or it's firms coming up with, fintech firms coming up with really innovative solutions to compliance issues.
Yeah.
But in terms of what's going on generally in the industry, there's got to be a big change soon. We've had, we talked earlier on about Google, Facebook, Amazon and Alibabas of the world. They handle huge amounts of data, just completely explosive. So maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, financial services was the big data industry.
Yeah.
That's completely been blown out of the water. Even with the amount of transactions that are going on, obviously we're talking B2B and not necessarily B2C.
Yeah.
But from that perspective, a lot's changed. So the Googles and Alibabas of the world, they've actually started pushing huge technological change. There's basically been a revolution in the way applications talk with each other. You've got this massive, almost cupboard full of open source. You've got this collaborative work going on between, GitHub. Thousands and thousands of people are working on this open source stuff, which is out there and which can be used. And there's the culture around that is not, oh, that IP is mine. This is ours. Do you want to buy it for a huge amount of money, or I'll license it to you? It's now more about, okay, there's huge amounts of stuff that you can do, and the way businesses, and especially in financial services as well, we've got different ways starting to evolve around how firms do business. So, for example, obviously blockchain. I'm sure you've had plenty of people talking about blockchain here. But how do you get these siloed bits of architecture to start talking to new tech? And that's all about open source, about using open APIs for applications to talk to each other. But at the heart of that, you've got to have data which is not rubbish in and rubbish out, or I can't get that piece out. It has to be at the heart of any organisation. I
agree. It's that whole thought process of collaboration is new really for the financial industries, isn't it? It's always been so fiercely competitive, so fiercely secretive, and I think a real feature of probably the last 3, maybe 5 years has been a much more collaborative space. And as you say, blockchain is very much at the heart of that sort of thing over the last year or two, even more so, where we're seeing, I think, financial industries for the first time realising that sort of art of collaboration is going to do it, and it will stop or at least stem the flow of the giants of Google and the big tech companies sort of coming in there to disrupt. That's the real disruption, I think, or the real potential disruption of the new face of finance will be these big tech companies coming in there and providing something completely different from the learning outside of the FS space, where FS used to be so far ahead and now is probably lagging a little bit. And it's good to see companies like yours who are reflecting that and doing something a bit different with it.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think the other big problem that financial services is going to have if it doesn't pick its game up quite soon is that loss of the top grade graduates coming out.
Yeah.
And wanting, obviously you're going to see this in your space, and you already have seen it.
Yeah.
If I'm graduating now from Imperial or somewhere like that, do I want to go into a bank, or do I want to go and work for Google?
Yeah.
Do I want to go and work for Facebook, even after obviously the problems they've had, or any of those firms?
Yeah.
And I'd say if I'm a technologist and I love funky, groovy things that are innovative, that you want to push new ways of collaborating and doing things and building business and supporting workflows.
Yeah.
There are tools out there that we're using as part of what we're doing that not a lot of firms at the moment in financial services are using.
Yeah.
So, I think it's thefinancer.com. So he's very fond of saying that there's a time to turn around huge pieces of technology within banks, for example. Are they going to realize that they need to do that quickly enough to be able to implement that change? And how is that change going to take place before someone like Google or maybe some other fintechs start eating away at the B2B business that we haven't seen happen so far?
Well, that's another side of collaboration though as well, right? Because the banks, I don't think, will respond in that same sort of way. I do think, in terms of talent and tech talent into that sort of stuff, and I think they will be, and this is where we're seeing them start to eat up some of those fintech firms, or at least collaborate and partner with them a little bit more to recognise that, when I first got into the industry probably 19 years ago, your best technologists would be a beeline to the investment banks. That's where it would be. The scale of the projects were far more interesting. The pay was obviously significantly higher. But that pay has sort of gradually come to parallel. The interest of the technology and the digital revolution outside of finance has become a little bit cooler. The pressure's been a little bit less potentially, and it is a genuine issue. And then over the hill comes this fintech, or the fintech players who provide a different solution where you can generally have a playground for the best ideas and put that stuff together, and it works in a different. It's just a different ecosystem that we look at, and I still think some of the best projects and the best challenges and the best problems to solve come from within finance. It's just about badging that story to technologists and saying it might not be the traditional. You go and work for a tier 1 investment bank in their tech department and see where it goes. It's people doing different things as you guys are, to harbour that high quality talent and do things a little bit differently. And that's where the exciting stuff comes for you, right?
Yeah, so from our point of view, at the moment we've kept our heads quite low to try and get the value proposition, to get our tech right, the stack working, and in practice, in real life trading. So from where we are now, we're going to start having those conversations with larger players and working out how, one of the things, if you go to a larger player as opposed to a smaller greenfield site, is the fact that greenfield doesn't have to worry about the legacy tech they've already got in place. And if you swap that out, what does that mean for day-to-day operations, let alone for for your future workflows? So it's almost easier to implement something with greenfield. So how do you then come up with this data strategy and data warehouse and applications that a larger firm might want to go to, but perceives a bit too much risk in terms of new player. Okay, we've had this tech in for the last 10 years. It might be one vendor or another, or an in-house application.
Or a series of vendors.
Exactly, more likely in terms of that siloed kind of. I was going to say siloed approach, but it's not an approach, it's more an evolution, which is outside of people's control. So it's not like people want to have a siloed approach. But the point is, once you've got that in there, it works. It might not work optimally. One system might go, like a portfolio system might go down and takes 40 minutes to start up again
Yeah.
in the middle of the trading day.
Yeah.
It's not ideal, but the problem is, is it better the devil that you know, as opposed to your name's on the line when you get a new vendor in that eventually, isn't able to deliver.
Yeah.
So I think one of the approaches of using the new tech is we can modularize our system highly. So we can say, look, why don't you just take this bit and it'll fit alongside your existing infrastructure or an existing application. We have the technical expertise, the guys, Kim, Nick and Chow are absolute whizzes, they've seen it all.
Yeah.
So then it becomes a case of, okay, how do you integrate, how do you get the data that you need to be able to run your application next to ours so we can then compare them.
Yeah.
But all this new tech, that's the kind of thing it gives you the ability to do.
Yeah.
On top of that, the flexibility of being able to develop with other applications, so being open to collaborating.
Yeah.
Incredibly important moving forward, otherwise we're going to get steamrolled in financial services.
I think you say an interesting thing there as well about companies adopting new technology and why legacy systems still sort of come on like that, because it's still such a blame game, isn't it? People are still so paralysed by fear of making a mistake within it with their jobs, particularly with potentially less around at that sort of end of the funnel, that they sort of play a very safe game. And it's good to see that solutions like yours give people the option to make those decisions and make it in a slightly less risk intense sort of way. And I think that sort of thinking is sort of very encouraging for you guys in the future and what that holds for you.
Well, we hope it's the right approach, and so far it's been the right approach. Let's see where the next 6 months takes us in terms of how we get on with maybe some smaller firms and then some larger firms that we can deliver to. And that's the
roadmap for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically, so I should have said actually, so far we haven't taken any investment. This has all been sweat equity.
Yeah.
So part of the our company's journey within the next 6 months is to work out where or how, if we need investment to be able to scale up.
Yeah.
My hunch is at the moment that we probably will do.
Yeah.
And then then you have to sit down and work out where do you want investment from, how much, and also crucially, what you're going to do with the investment.
Yeah.
It's all very well having a lump of cash coming in as a startup.
Yeah.
But unless you have a plan to how to spend it and how that is going to hit your performance moving forward and bottom line, that's really what investors are looking for.
Well, that's the important part of it. I mean, when I go back to what I saw companies doing in 2000, 2001, 2002 when they were getting investment, it was so haphazard, wasn't it, that the bubble burst. And I think businesses now who absolutely understand what sort of investment they need and what the roadmap looks like for it. And the great thing, it's a phenomenal thing you guys have done for that sort of stage to get to where you are without investment, and to come in and think about, right, what do people look for in that space? A great team, a proof of concept, and an idea that solves a problem. Everything we've just been talking about is those three things. So it's very, very well set for that sort of stuff, and making sure then that there's a very clear map to what that does and how it goes and where the company's going is the exciting stuff. Right?
Sure. I think one of the things that we're keen, as you're talking about investors, investment, and back in the dot-com bubble bursting, there's a lot banded around at the moment about AI, machine learning, natural language programming,
buzzwords,
all of them. And it's quite tempting to just launch into them. Personally, I think they're at their infancy in terms of financial services, at least.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is provide a platform which enables all of that to happen when it's ready.
Yeah.
So it gives you optionality to be able to do that. The type of tech that we're using and the language that we're using is all optimized for that.
Yeah.
A lot of I mentioned kind of graduates. A lot of them, they're not even using email anymore. They're all on chat systems.
Yeah.
There's bots. Yeah. All of this stuff is all leading to further automation of existing workflow.
Yeah.
You can get to your data quicker. You can start using it. We have what we call a talking data warehouse. It talks to us through different applications. We can talk to it and get things out.
Yeah.
Not just the data warehouse talking to a front end GUI or whatever it happens to be. But I guess my point is that we're a bit hesitant about using AI all over our marketing material.
Yeah.
Things are going there. You need to be optimized to be able to do that as a platform.
Yeah.
If you're not future-proofed. But that's, yeah, we're approaching investors in a more holistic manner in terms of what we're offering.
Yeah, and that's the encouraging thing. Everything you've talked about is so encouraging about how it is a sensible, realistic. I know it's not a glamorous word, but it's to me it's so important. A sensible approach to making sure the right decisions come in, and you're built to excel and thrive in the future. And I wish you guys the very best of luck. It's really exciting to see it. I've loved seeing how you guys developed and what you've done over the last year or two in particular. And I'm sure it's going to be even greater things to come.
Toby, thanks very much for having us on the show. Really honoured to be on the top 100 influencers, and hopefully we'll be around next year further up the list.
Plenty more to come. George, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you again soon on another episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks for watching.